What if the biggest thing ruining first-time sex in America isn't inexperience, anatomy, or some hidden medical problem? What if it's pressure? Pressure to make it happen on the right night. Pressure to prove the relationship is real. Pressure to perform before two people even feel safe enough to be honest. And that pressure is built on an old script that doesn't even match modern American life anymore. CDC data show that most ever married Americans had sex before marriage, while census data show Americans are marrying much later than past generations. So here's the real question. When first-time sex goes badly, what is actually going wrong? Because the evidence points to something deeper than nerves. It points to a collision between myth and reality. We still hand people a story that says sex will just happen. That hesitation is immaturity, that talking too much kills the mood, and that if it doesn't happen quickly, something is wrong. But healthier sexual experiences usually work the opposite way. They get better when people slow down, communicate, and stop treating one moment like a PES's or fail exam. Start with the myth that does some of the most damage. The idea that first-time bleeding is expected or even required. It isn't. The hymen is not a seal of virginity, and its appearance cannot reliably tell whether someone has had sex. Major medical organizations and scientific reviews have been clear about that. Some people may notice light bleeding the first time. Many do not. So when people enter a first sexual experience expecting blood, fear, and a test they have to pass, they are not entering intimacy. They are entering surveillance. Then there is the second myth. That pain is just the price of admission. Discomfort can happen, but severe pain, recurring pain, or penetration that feels impossible is not something a person should simply endure in. Silence. Pain during sex can be linked to inadequate lubricant, anxiety, pelvic floor tension, infections, endometriosis, and other treatable issues. In some people, the body tightens in anticipation of penetration so strongly that the experience becomes sharply painful or impossible. That is not weakness. That is not drama. That is a real body response. This is why pressure matters so much. When people are scared, embarrassed, rushed, or trying to get it over with, the body often does not cooperate. Arousal drops. Natural lubrication may drop. Muscles tense. The mind starts monitoring instead of feeling. And suddenly, a moment that should be based on trust turns into a performance review. That doesn't mean first-time sex must be perfect or cinematic. It means the body tends to respond better to safety than to deadlines. And safety is not just emotional. It is practical. Consent is not a vague vibe. It is active, voluntary, and clear. Research suggests stronger sexual communication is linked to healthier sexual practices. That means if two people cannot say simple things like, slow down, not yet, use a condom, that's, or let's stop, they are missing tools that matter more than confidence. Silence is not maturity. Readiness is not measured by whether someone says yes once. It is measured by whether both people can keep communicating while things are happening. There is also a very American blind spot. A lot of people still think of the first time as mainly an emotional event, when it is also a public health event. Pregnancy can happen the first time. STIs can be transmitted the first time. Many STIs have no symptoms at all, which means you cannot rely on appearance, vibes, or trust alone. Condoms reduce the risk of pregnancy and sexually transmitted infections. The CDC says water-based or silicone-based lubricants should be used with latex condoms. because oil-based products can weaken the latex and cause breakage. And if protection fails, the clock matters. The CDC says emergency contraceptive pills are to be taken as soon as possible within 5 days of unprotected sex. A copper IUD can also be used within that window. That is not a side note. That is part of what being prepared looks like in real life. Romance is not ruined by planning. Panic is. Now here is where a lot of bad advice enters. Some people are told that everyone with concerns before first-time sex needs a pelvic exam. Just to be cleared. But that is not how American guidance works. ACOG says adolescents usually do not need a pelvic exam at a first gynecologic visit, unless they are having problems. At the same time, if someone has recurring pain, cannot insert a tampon, feels burning or deep pain, has unusual bleeding, or is worried about anatomy, then seeing a clinician makes sense. And pelvic exams, when they are actually indicated, are considered safe. That matters, because many Americans are still walking into first sexual experiences with 21st century lives and 19th century beliefs. We date differently. We marry later. We talk more openly about mental health than previous generations. Yet people still inherit old scripts that see real sex must happen quickly, that good partners endure pain, and fat bodies should obey expectations on command. The evidence says something else. Better first experiences are usually built through pacing, communication, protection, and enough trust that nobody feels they have to prove anything. And that may be the most important distinction in this whole conversation. The goal is not to push people towards sex faster. The goal is to remove the myths that make healthy intimacy harder. First-time sex does not have to happen on a schedule. It does not have to include pain, bleeding, silence, or panic. And if something feels wrong, stopping isn't failure. Getting help is not failure. Waiting is not failure. The real failure is the script. The script that says this moment must happen. The script that says bodies should obey pressure. The script that says a person's worth, purity, or adulthood can be measured by what happened in one room on one night. That script is outdated, medically shaky, and emotionally expensive. A better first experience is usually not the fastest one. It is the one built on mutual desire, mutual honesty, protection, and enough calm that nobody has to choose between fear and performance. So here is the question. If pressure disappeared, how different would people's first experiences actually be?